It is me, Mark Schwann, here for another episode of Go Brand Yourself, a local media podcast. Again, I'm Mark Schwann, and my business partner here is Stony Bratter.
How's it going?
Well, what up, bro? And we have our first guest, which I'm really excited about. Been a good friend of mine for eons, it feels like. He is an award-winning photographer. He's done my headshots and my engagement shots as well, but he's known all throughout the wedding world. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Michael Cassara.
Thank you. You know, that's I think I mentioned to this I need you to like introduce me everywhere I go, every room I walk into. Like if I don't get introduced like that, I'm going to be very disappointed the next place next wedding I go to. Like if I don't walk into a bridal suite or something and I don't have you introducing me, it'll be very disappointing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. You just need to be I need to be your personal hype man. It's funny because I feel like starting off the podcast, I do a wrestling podcast, so called Shot of Wrestling. So I felt like I was like in that zone. I was like, oh wait, no, this is Go Brand Yourself. But I decided to keep the same energy going.
It's a good energy to have.
Want our guests to feel special, of course.
Mike is an award-winning photographer, wedding photographer as well. And, looking at his stuff, he is incredibly talented, both artistically, and he has a strong business sense and social presence. So we wanted to have you on, man, to, share with our audience all of the great tips that I'm sure that you've learned from doing this for years and years.
Well, yeah, thanks guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. So why don't you give us a little background about your journey? So you started off, I know, in a marketing department for the Tiffin company, and then you were doing your thing as a photographer during that. And then you eventually got yourself to be full-time wedding photographer, which for the last few years now, which has been phenomenal. So talk to us about that journey here.
Yeah, sure. I'll do like a little Cliff Notes version of, I guess, the journey to being a full-time photographer. Basically goes all the way back to like 2009. I graduated college from Hofstra. I went to Hofstra to be actually a filmmaker. I really wanted to study documentary film, which I did, and graduated, and then got a job down in North Carolina working for a boutique marketing agency as their director of photography, which was cool. I got to travel around, do all that stuff. It really, taught me the ins and outs, and also taught me that I really don't want to do that first and foremost. Like it was cool. It was a cool experience, but I really didn't love the motion side as much as I thought I would. So, college degree for film. Yeah. That was
because you
great.
Loved it. You absolutely loved it, man. I loved it in college. Yeah.
You know what it is? Like corporate world could burn you out. And I definitely got burnt out real quick. But during that time, it kind of taught me a lot. And during that time, I actually bought my first DSLR, which is the Canon 5D Mark II. I bought it for video because at the time it was like the first DSLR that could shoot HD video. So I bought it for, in the sense, and I had minored in photography. Like that was my minor, and I had like a Canon Rebel and stuff like that. And I took film classes, like photography film classes. And I always liked it. I always enjoyed it. But it wasn't until I picked up that camera that I started taking stills of like my girlfriend. Now she's my wife, and like, friends and stuff like that, where, I started to fall in love with the still side of imagery. Like after North Carolina, I moved back home, needed a job. Like I basically left the company I worked for because I just didn't enjoy it. So I was like, let me come home, reset, get back on my feet. And my mom had mentioned to me, she knew a wedding photographer, like a guy who owns a wedding studio, and like he's looking for like shooters to go out and shoot weddings. And it was like budget weddings, like people just looking to save like at like VFW halls and things like that. And during that time I was trying to work odd jobs. I found I was young, unemployed, trying to work my way into something, find a career. It was during the recession, by the way. This is like when we had, the 2009 recession.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days.
That.
So jobs were very few and far between. So I was applying everywhere. And during that time, though, I was shooting. I worked for, a couple of studios, like as a second shooter, lighting assistant. So I learned the ins and outs of photography. Then going into it, I finally got a job with the Tiffin company as a God, what was my title? It was like a software assistant, like they had a Photoshop software, and I was like customer service, like for software. So I did all of that, but I really liked the company, so I wanted to work my way up. So I started working my way up. I ended up becoming their first marketing manager for social media, and then turned that into the marketing communications manager, as well as the content creation manager during the 8 years I worked there. But all throughout that time, I actually did photography as a side hustle. Like I shot my first wedding solo in 2012, and now have shot over 200 weddings.
Wow.
In the last 11 years. It's been, thank you. I have another 40 this year, which is pretty awesome. And it's one of the coolest jobs in the world. I love what I do. It's, like you get to be your own boss, and I'll get into that too. But that's kind of how I got started. I did this as a side hustle. I did wedding photography as a side hustle. I didn't do it because I had to do it, because when I was working at Tiffin, I actually had a pretty successful job. I was making pretty good money. All the parts to having a great career. Worked my way up through the company. I guess you could call it ladder climbed, where I went from, basically a customer service role to one of the a higher end job in marketing, and left making six figures, and it was a great career to have. But the itch to become an entrepreneur kind of kept, it just needed to get scratched. And
you were fulfilled. You were fulfilled.
Exactly. It was in 2019 that I had the opportunity to kind of pick my path. And I had things lining up at Tiffin where, I could have went one way, gone the corporate route, and, probably ended up being a vice president by now, or taking, the other fork in the road, which would be, becoming an entrepreneur, owning your own business, taking it seriously, taking on more clients, which is a huge risk, going out on your own.
Oh, trust me, I know that much.
So ultimately I sat down with my wife and laid it out and looked at everything, and demand was really high for the photography. And I looked at everything, looked at all the finances, and said, this is something I could do. So in 2019, took the plunge. Haven't looked back since. It's been one of the coolest rides ever.
That's amazing, man. I admire you for it, because it definitely, it's not an easy road to take, going from the corporate job to following a dream. Let's just call it what it is. You follow a dream path that's not necessarily secure. You don't necessarily know what's going to be. You're your own boss. Lots of different variables there, especially 2019 talked about, boom, you're heading to a pandemic without even realizing. So there's that. But the amazing thing is you touched on it, but the support of your wife, right? I had the same exact thing. When I went from the banking world into acting, I kept that close to the chest, and my girlfriend, who's my wife now, was fully on board, man. To have that support is so impactful that I don't think they even realize.
Mm-hmm. If you have a partner in life, and you are making a decision like that without talking with them and confiding in them, yeah. I don't think that's the right person for you. You could do a whole another podcast on that one.
Relationships.
Come see us at our next podcast, relationships with local media.
But it's the truth. You need to, not only have that support, but also the encouragement and everything along those lines. And it's important too, taking the plunge to becoming an entrepreneur. If you're not supported, it's not going to work. So, no. And that's one of the things I'm very grateful for. My wife was fully supportive. And I'm not going to lie, we really looked at everything down to how much, we would make, laying it out, all of that stuff, and making sure we would be comfortable. And
it was a calculated risk then for you, because
it was a very calculated risk. I knew how successful how it could be. And I've topped that. I knew
that's
it couldn't.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I knew it couldn't get really, I knew I had a number to hit, and I hit that number in the first 2 months that I opened it. So
Nice.
so I knew it was just how far do you want to go, and that's where I took it.
So I guess my question is how did you utilize social media as part of your marketing mix? If you could share with us some of the things that you think worked really well for you.
So I started with social media like way back, like when I was at Tiffin, they gave me the job as social media manager, and running a corporate social media kind of like put me in the driver's seat for running my own social media from a business perspective. So in 2011, 2012, I started Tiffin's like Facebook and Instagram and started building that up. And I took strategies and I did all of that stuff to like build them up to over 100,000 followers, which was like a big accomplishment. During that time, I really didn't focus on my social media. I really hate social media from a personal perspective. But from a business perspective, social media is the greatest tool that any business has. Without a doubt, it is the number one asset a business could have. And what is it? It's free. It is free marketing. When it comes down to it, it could be 100% free if you want it to be, and if you do it right. Let's just put it that way. So
I was going to say, if you do it right, you have to be consistent.
Absolutely, you have to be consistent. And I will tell you, as a person who runs their own social media, their own business social media, I have spent maybe, I want to say, $22 on business advertising on social media. And I think that was just to try to see if like an ad worked or something like that, which ultimately didn't. So like give you an idea, like I really haven't spent any money on my social media to make it successful. So you have a very powerful tool if you're a business at your fingertips, which is social media. And personally, I use I'm a person who uses Instagram the most. I also have TikTok. Facebook really is just a link to my Instagram. It kind of keeps the boomer generation happy. Like my mom's generation, who are the only ones that see it, which is funny. Like the only people that comment on my Facebook are like people over the age of 45 to 65. So,
but that's important though. That's important.
No, that is
important to know. I was going to get into that. It's exactly,
each platform has its own demographic, so it's important that you realize that though.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to get into, is like, you have to understand your demographic, right? So with what I do, I'm a wedding photographer based out of Long Island, New York. I do very high end, high scale weddings. Like my client is not the super, super rich. Okay. And it's not the lower end. It's kind of like in the, like, upper middle class. It's upper middle class. Like, let's just put it that way. Okay. Like my average starting price is $7,000 for wedding photography. Okay. The average wedding on Long Island costs around $65,000 to host, have, and have that function. So it's one of the, I think it's the second most expensive place in the United States to actually have a wedding. Give you an idea. Okay. So vendors are very expensive. I'm on the upper tier. I think it's California. Things like Napa. I think it's Napa,
East
California.
Coast, West Coast, man.
Yeah. So it's always the coast. So I think it's Napa, California, if I'm not mistaken. But Long Island is numbered from what I read last year. It was number 2. It could be number 1 now. Who knows? And so with what I focus my social media on, okay, is really 25 to 40-year-old women. Okay. Being a wedding photographer who looks at the work of, pretty wedding photos, like, we're all men. Okay. And right. I will be honest with you, not too many grooms follow me on social media. I look at my demographics every like really once a month to see like if anything's shifting, anything like that, ages, all that stuff, right? Like locations, you name it. And what I see is 82% of my followers are women from the ages of 25 to 40.
That just makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Why? Because it's marriage age. They're probably looking at wedding photographers, things like that. And my social media is tailor made to like brides. It really is. So I have a key demographic that I target, and I hit them like every chance I get with posts and stories and things like that.
No, yeah, man. Like your photos, especially as a photographer, like Instagram, it has to be a must. I
Mhm.
know Instagram went through like the weird phase of, and they're still going through a weird phase. I feel like they have an identity crisis because I want to see how this impacted you, because for a while, at the beginning of the summer of 2021, I want to say,
Mhm.
or is it 2022? My years are mixed up. They shifted towards Reels,
Yes.
right? There's a big focus, big emphasis on Reels, which hurt a lot of photographers. And even the Kardashians are crying, like, we want to go back to the old way. Then Instagram, they brought back Reels a little bit. They reeled it back, no pun intended. And now it's just been a weird algorithmic shift on Instagram. How has it impacted you as a content creator?
So, everyone says adapt or die. You
Yeah,
have to adapt. You have to adapt to everything. Social media has changed in the last, 13 years, I think, since I've looked at it, from the Instagram sense. And,
it's been changing for the last 5 minutes. I mean, like,
yeah, exactly. Like I did read that they are changing the real position on the app and things like that. They're bringing back the plus button, which is to create now, like, so then the less of a focus on reels, which I think is a great, it's the right thing to do, because when you go to Instagram, you want to see photos. Like I don't scroll as much as I used to on Instagram. I really look at just people's stories because of the fact that, like, I'm not seeing like 90% of the people that I follows
right.
posts, which is sad. It really is. It's a sad thing. So social media changes, so you have to adapt to it. I adapted to it. I started doing reels maybe once a month, like, just to spice things up. But what I do is take a personal approach to reels. I take a personal approach to also TikToks. I am on TikTok as well, where it's more fun. It's not so much more about my work as it is more about, like, the personal side, like the fun things, like, like I always say, like, businesses, like, whether you're a small business with 1 to 2 employees, or you're a very big Fortune 500 company, you should have a personal approach to certain things, like, show the personality of the business. So having, like, me, for instance, like, I run this business, and when I post stories, I'm posting fun things. I'm posting things like my kids. I'm posting, like, home projects. I'm posting, like, I'm making pancakes on a Sunday, things like that. So, like, these people who follow me could have, like, a connection to me, that I'm not just, a business, that I'm a person. And that, like, when I show up to their wedding day, they're getting, like, the guy who's goofy, fun, that likes to have a good time, that curses a lot, and just
Part of
enjoys,
your
like, his
brand.
job.
It's
It's
part
part
of
of,
your brand.
exactly. That's exactly right, Sony. It's part of the brand. So you make that part of your brand, and that is a key to getting more interaction on your social media, is bringing that personal aspect to it, get you more interaction from your followers. 150%. That's the first thing I've noticed through I'd say the last 5 years or so, since, like, really going full time into my business.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, and I see this quite a bit. I think why a lot of businesses fail on social media is because there's just that guard, right? Like, I'm a business, so I have to act this way. But no, people don't want to interact with that. People don't want to buy from that. People want that personal touch. They want the relationship, if you will. And you can't be afraid to show that side of yourself. People talk about branding like it's a bad thing, or that it's just like this certain word that they don't really understand. But what branding really is being you.
Exactly. As somebody who takes brand photos for people, that's the first thing I tell somebody, is like, okay, like, what are you looking to convey here? Like, because I want to show you in your element when I take, like, photos of somebody, whether they're, like, a marketing strategist. I do a lot of real estate, or real estate agents, things like that. I want them to look like them in their environment.
Right, because it's
So,
what differentiates people. It's what differentiates, really, right? So if I have
Right.
to choose between, let's say real estate. Let's stick with the example. If I have to choose between a real estate agent, am I going to, like, everything will look the same, right? I
mhm.
mean, every single thing will look the same, and so now there's no shortcut to my brain saying, "Oh, which one do I want?" Now I'm just looking at the same person over and over again, male or female, same pose, same setup, right? I'm just scrolling through faces and phone numbers. That's what I think is so fascinating about where what you do, is because you are actually saying to them, let me focus you, like,
Mhm.
and demonstrate that and make that shortcut. I think the word is heuristic, a heuristic shortcut to the brain from the consumer side, right? When you're
And
shopping, it's like
Word of the
you're
day
going,
right
yeah,
there.
it's heuristic. Yeah. Oh, that MBA is really paying off now.
But it's true from both a business standpoint to, somebody who takes wedding photographs. Like, you want people to look like them, in their photos, and that's the way I photograph. That's the way I try to convey my business, and that's the personal approach I take to my social media is, involve myself as much as possible, have a personal like connection with the client. Like, it's important. I also curate my own content. So the most important thing that I tell, somebody starting out is, a lot of people focus on the number, like, oh, I have 10,000 followers. I have 15,000 followers. Like, yeah, okay. What's your likes on your post?
Right.
15, 20, 30, 50.
Right,
If
right.
you have 20,000 followers and you get 100 likes on your posts, you don't have 20,000 followers.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
You
have like
probably have
15,000 bots.
exactly.
Like,
That's probably
The-
you either paid for those followers, which a lot of people do just to inflate their number, which is the wrong strategy to have. Or what you did was you just never curated your stuff enough that you're basically showing your work to nothing. Like the bots like are there, the people that really don't care about your work are there. Maybe they're like, you did follow for follow or something like that. Like, that was big back in the day. So I always curate my content, and I curate my followers particularly because I want real people to see my work. So if I see a bot follow me, I block that. Like that, because when you think about it, right, a bot takes up an account. Okay. A bot takes up a slot to see your engagement. While the algorithm already is preventing people from seeing your account, you're now adding another layer where there's a bot or a corporate account or something, right? Like a spam account that is, preventing a real user from seeing your post. So these companies have 15 or like, small businesses, or even like, in my field, photographers that have 15 and 20,000 followers, and they're getting 50 to 100 likes per post. They're doing it wrong because of the fact that like they don't have that real interaction. My posts, for example, on average, I get anywhere from 250 to 500 likes per post. Right? That's like a 30% engagement rate, I think,
which completely crushes it, because an engagement rate, I think typically in Instagram on average is like 1%. It's something ridiculously low like that. So when you have like a 30% engagement rate, dude, you're hitting home runs. You're Babe Ruth of Instagram.
And that's cool. And I don't have a lot of followers. I'm just short of 6,000. But I'd say 97% of my followers are probably real, genuine people.
Quality. Quality followers over quantity followers.
Exactly. And that's a great point. Quality over quantity. I also don't post every day. I only post my quality stuff. I don't post in quantity. There's a lot of photographers or a lot of businesses that post every single day, and their photos are gorgeous, or their content is beautiful and things like that. But you're spamming. Like in reality, you're spamming people to the point where they don't want to see it. There's ways
it's because I'm sorry, but it's because there's just so many different like quote unquote experts out there, and like it's all these varying opinions. Like, you do hear a lot of like these so-called experts say, "Oh, you gotta post every day or you're not crushing it," and like, that might be true for Twitter, because Twitter has just such a short lifespan per tweet. Although that might be changing right now with the way it's going, but that's a whole other discussion. But focusing on Instagram here, it's not necessarily the case.
It's not, because that post, like, no joke, I see posts that were like 3 weeks old that still get likes from people, they're still getting views that are reels, things like that, because of the fact that like maybe it hit a hashtag that like it hit an algorithm, it hit a hashtag that like, maybe they pushed or something like that. So, I'm always trying to, take a different approach. So I always do quality over quantity. I post maybe twice a week, maybe. I'm being honest here. I think like the last post I did before my previous one was maybe like 10 days ago. But what I do is I'm always engaging my followers. And how I do that is stories. Stories are the best asset to any small business that has an Instagram account. It's the greatest thing you could do because that's where I interact. I do in a personal approach. That's where, like they see it at the very top, especially if they follow you and they look at your stuff on the regular, your little symbol, your little picture is going to pop up to that top left every time. So that when you post a story, things are going to, like pop up first on their feed. So my stories get anywhere from around I think it's around 800 to 1500 views, which is a great number.
That's
so
a big number. They say 9% on average.
And I use that and I leverage that through like a lot of different ways too. So the number one strategy I do as a photographer is like after a wedding, for example, or if I collaborate with somebody, okay, I do what's called a teaser post. Okay. So like if I shot a wedding on a Saturday, I'm posting a few photos on a Monday or Tuesday from that wedding. And what I do is I don't just tag the couple because I know the couple's going to share it. Okay. And they're going to share it on their story and things like that and so on and so forth. So it's like, basically, it's a hydra. It's like, you're like sending it out and just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Like, so like you can't cut the head off the snake. It keeps coming back. So it's great because, you tag those people, right? You tag the vendors, for instance, like the florist, the wedding planner, the makeup artist, the hairstylist, all of them, right? On those stories. And they have the ability to just hit, share this story,
Right.
and they all do.
So
now you're hitting, not only are you hitting your followers, you're hitting their followers and their followers. So what I noticed after a wedding day, on average, when I post those teasers, I gain around anywhere from 25 to 30 unique followers, like true people.
That's great.
That's amazing.
That's an excellent strategy.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So that's
but you have to tag the
work.
right people. Like, I've seen people like tag like just random people on there, random companies, and that doesn't work. But if it's relevant to the content you're using, for example, if it's a wedding photographer, I mean, this is 101 right here, the couple, the vendor, like like everything you said, and that's just perfect. It creates this harmony, and then also it gets your brand out there, and your product out there. So that is a great, like you call it, always a hydra. That was a perfect analogy. For
I don't even know if that's the right word for it, but yeah, like that's like, that's a strategy I've taken. It might not work for, a brand that's like, say, a real estate agent or something like that, right? Like, it might not work for those kind of people, but you kind of have to discover what works for you. Like it might not even be Instagram, it could be TikTok, right?
Right.
Like TikTok's like one of the biggest platforms, if not the biggest social media platform right now in the world. Okay.
As of today, yes,
it came
is.
out of nowhere. I feel like it came out of nowhere too.
It's Gen Z's escape, right? So like, being a millennial, okay, like I'm 36 and I'm 37, okay, and I now have to start shifting my business into what Gen Z, because Gen Z is what, like 20 up. They're 24, 25. They're the ones starting to get engaged. Millennials aren't really getting engaged anymore. Like they're now
getting
married.
Divorced now.
Yeah, they're getting maybe their second marriages are coming up. I don't know, but it's the truth, right? So you have to look at the strategy based around what your company is going after. So I will evolve, like because I see it. I see trends before they ever happen. Like
you have to,
like before, like just giving you an idea. Like I did have I did go viral last year, which was one of the coolest moments of my life.
I love that little flexer there. I love that little flex.
It's such a flex.
I did go viral.
Yeah,
I did. So, but like, it was crazy because I finally saw that firsthand, what that's like and how that grows. So I could speak that from a different standpoint than most people have. Like when you go viral, it's the craziest thing ever. It really is. Cause you're like, what is going on right now? Right? Like what is happening? So just give you an idea. I was posted on TikTok once every 2 weeks, something like that, like fun things, like stupid things, like, and I was really sharing those to my Instagram. Okay. Like it was really just because TikTok is a great editing feature and everything like that. It makes posting videos so easy on there. They really have it down. So I remember So what happened was I was posting and I was putting effort into these TikToks, like music and like cuts and all this stuff. And they were doing okay. Maybe like 200 to 300 views, 500 views, like, 30 likes. And, I had like maybe 100 followers on TikTok. Okay.
And I saw the one that you're about to talk about, man. It is so simple. It's ridiculous. You had millions. You didn't just go viral. It was millions of views. But go on.
So the dumbest, easiest one I ever did was Kourtney Kardashian married oh my god, Travis Barker, right, this past year. Okay. And they posted the wedding photos, and the wedding photos were from this fashion photographer, like this acclaimed fashion photographer, and they were hideous, right? Hideous photos. They were just,
they were awful.
It's not like talking style critique, all that stuff. Like it wasn't even about that. It was just like the photos were poorly composed, like just they were just amateur. They looked amateur, and I'm like, these got to be from a cell phone, and apparently they weren't. They were actually from her camera, and they were actually taken by her.
God.
So like I saw the photos and I verified that they were actually from the photographer. They were posted on the photographer's Instagram and all this stuff, and like taken with professional equipment. And I'm like, these are the worst photos I've ever seen. Professional wedding photos. Like professional wedding photos for a celebrity, right? So I literally, this window behind me, okay, right there, okay, literally took my phone just like this, and like they had a stitch of the photos, like somebody actually like recorded, put it to music and all that stuff, and you could stitch, like, so you could like post like side by side on TikTok. Right. So I recorded 30 seconds of me making faces at the photos, like ridiculous faces. 3.1 million views, over 300,000 likes on that post.
And then you were smart. You capitalized on that by doing a follow-up video. Someone asked you a question.
Someone asked a question.
Why it was so bad?
Yeah, and so I just pointed out, and that one had, I think, 100,000 views. So, like, don't get me wrong, that did nothing for my business. Okay, nothing for my business. That got me $0. Like now, like I think if you reach 800 followers on TikTok, you could do monetize and stuff like that. Like I'm not even at that. I think I gained like 700 followers, which was cool. I think I'm at like 730 followers or something like that.
Almost there.
I'm almost there.
Nice.
But that freaking video, like no joke, like if I open TikTok right now, I guarantee there's probably 30 new likes on that post. And that thing is from last year. 14 new likes. Okay. On that post.
It just survives.
It's just still there. It's just still, and people still comment on it. And like, I have every Kardashian troll, like, after me, and but going viral it's great. Don't get me wrong. Okay. It's cool, but does it do anything for your business? Okay.
No, it's clout.
Well, I was going to say, apparently, when I was reading into, like the study of what virality does for like revenue or whatever, it really doesn't do very much when you look at it over long term. So like, just as a small example, using Reddit as an example, it's known that when a video is promoted through Reddit on YouTube, from YouTube or any type of social media, that it has the tendency to kill the channel that made it viral. So you'll get all of these new subscribers using YouTube and let's say Facebook videos is what I was reading about. It has the tendency to just kill their algorithm, because what happens is they see an influx, these platforms see an influx of subscribers, followers, etc. And then those same people don't come back to increase watch time, right? And so then YouTube goes and just kind of almost deplatforms it. Just to say it that way. So it's kind of an interesting case study to, like, yes, you do want people to see your content. You do want people to engage with you, but you don't want fakes, to go back to what you were saying earlier about quality over that quantity. And that also translates very nicely to viewership numbers as well, or subscribers as well. Quality, not necessarily quantity.
It's about focusing on the right numbers, I would say. Like, I think people get blinded by the likes, the views, the followers, but like, what's real, what's attainable, like what's consistent. Those are the things that you have to look at there. But Michael, I know you have a hard out here, man. So I don't want to hold you up any longer, man. I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
Yeah, man.
No, I appreciate it. And just to like, like add to that point, just like just to finalize that point that Stoney just made, going viral or having something like blow up could be a good thing for your business. It also could be a terrible thing for your business. For me,
depends why you're going viral.
it depends how you go viral, number one, of course, but number two, it's also the fact that like, if you go viral and you have an influx of new people, okay, that aren't really necessarily into your brand but they're into, like they saw the viral post, so they automatically follow you. This goes back to like the bot account thing that we were just talking about with Instagram. They're taking up a space of a potential sale, right? And as somebody that like that 90% of my business comes from social media, particularly Instagram, that's a big deal, because that might mean a bride that is in the demographic is not seeing my stuff because like a 17-year-old in Arizona saw my viral TikTok on the Kardashians and we're like, oh, I'll follow him because he's kind of funny, but I'm never gonna buy his stuff.
Never going to buy a wedding package.
Right.
So that's the thing is like, you kind of have to gauge it. And like, obviously some businesses like, going viral could be the greatest thing in the world. And some, it could be the downfall, but you almost have to gauge it. You have to like, look at it and you utilize social media like to your advantage, like see what the best way is for your business, whether you're in real estate, whether you're a marketing agency, whether you're a photographer, whether you're just, somebody starting out, just trying to be a content creator, like utilize it the best way possible, leverage it the way you can, and look into those strategies that might work for you, because a strategy that works for me might not work for you. So it's important to do the research and really put the time in and grind it and see what works.
That's awesome. Great advice, man. Thank you so much again for taking time to join us, being our first guest here and Go Brand Yourself. Michael, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Michael Cassara Photo, TikTok, I think the same name. My website's michaelcassara.me, M for Mike, E for Echo. Yeah, I have a podcast coming out too, which is kind of cool.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, we just recorded our first 2 episodes. So that should be coming like probably within the next like 2 months. It's all about wedding photography and like the things that go on in the wedding industry. So
I cannot wait to hear that. I can't wait to listen to that.
It's ridiculous. It's me and my friend Lauren. We're a bunch of we call it 2 losers with a camera, a wedding photography podcast. So
awesome.
2 losers with a camera. What a hell of a name.
So you'll see that probably coming on podcast platforms everywhere in the next like couple
awesome
months, so.